What is up, my dudes? It's your boy Musha, back again with another video. I didn't post too much last week because of the holidays, but I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. And we're back to it now. So something I wanted to cover was actually how to use training mode, right? So somebody asked me in the comments how it is that you can make the AI do things like poke on reversal, right? So that way you can go ahead and test stuff out, like see if stuff's real, you know, things like that, right? Like the same way that I go ahead and do this, and I can see that the poke whips, catch him, things like that. So I figured I'd go ahead and go over it, just so that way you guys can go ahead and make the most out of practice, because I think that the training room is probably where you should spend most of the time that you're playing, not online. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, to start with, this is a lot of different stuff, but we're going to go into it. So the stance, this is how you go ahead and put the AI to either block or not. So if you have it set to block all, it'll block all just like it shows, right? Let me turn off reversal. So it'll block all, and this is great because you can check your frame data that way with the live frame data. And that's another thing, with the practice settings, I always recommend having it set to, you can put close or default. I put close so that way I can go ahead and just test my buttons instead of having to walk forward and test them. But you want to have that centered usually, so that way you can practice stuff from mid-screen. If this is all situational, this is all specific to what it is you're trying to practice. You want to practice also right, so that way you get used to the right side of the screen. But the main thing that you want to have set is you want to have it so that you have the frame data on for both. This is huge. This is very important. So that's how you're going to check your frames and all that. So see, if I have them set to block, I can see that the block advantage is +4. I can see that here it's -1. Things like that. Here I can see that that's -7. That's -4. Things like that. And that's how you're going to be able to go ahead and get the best version of your frame data, the most accurate telling of it. So definitely you want to be able to check with that when you're checking frame data. You want to be able to check to have block mode set to all, and then check the frame data that way. That's very useful for that. It's also really good for practicing block pressure. So if I take control of Ermax, for example, it's useful for me being able to do this, right? And being able to practice cancels and stuff like that. So it's very useful. And you can also see when things are unsafe. Like, for example, if I do this, you can see that's unsafe point blank. That's unsafe there as well. And some frame data changes depending on distance. If I do a ghost ball from here, that's -6. If I do it from all over here, that's +7. So some things change with distance. So it's important to go ahead and check that out. But that's mainly when you're going to be using all four. So the next one is auto. So for auto, basically they'll be able to get hit, and then as soon as they can recover, they'll block. So this is really good because you can check if things combo. So actually, again, taking control of Ermac, right? If I go like this, and I want to make sure that that combos, I need to set it to auto, right? So if I do this and wait too long, he'll block it. And that's not what I want. I want it to be able to combo, right? So setting it to auto is a very easy way to practice that, and that way you can make sure that you have your combos and that you're not dropping them. So very good for checking when things combo. Cancel characters are super good for that, because you can make sure that your pressure is actually real, or that your combos actually combo, and that way you're not dropping them. So it's a great way to practice that. And stance is just going to block whatever stance is. In this case, he's standing, so I can sweep. See, but if I try to do an overhead, he'll block the overhead, but he won't block the low. So that's all stance is. Stance hold means that you see him blocking. So this is so you can see a blocking animation. This is because sometimes certain characters, when they hold the stance, they'll change. See, like this little movement will actually affect the way that some things hit. So stance hold is good for that. Up block, they'll actually be able to up block things. So this is also good because if you're going to go ahead and, for example, they're only going to... The thing that's not very useful is that they're only going to do the up block moves, right? So they're not going to hit that because you can't up block that. But they will up block that. So that could be good for like seeing jump ins. And that way you can also practice safe jumps to make sure that your safe jumps are real. Now random attack is good because he'll only block a random attack, see? See? So there he's blocking randomly. And then random combo is similar, it's the last one, but it's similar, but he'll block an entire string. See? So he'll block a whole string. instead of just blocking an attack. So random attack, he might block the first hit, but he won't block the whole string necessarily. It's random. See, like there, he got opened up. So they're both good. Random attack is good for practicing hit confirms. Random combo is also good for that, but for different reasons. So for example, so if I have a sequence with Ermac where I do this, here I can go ahead and see, okay, I hit him, right? I have my pressure started. See, now I can practice hit confirming that. See? And that's really good for that because you can actually practice them getting hit randomly in the middle of your combo and how it is that you're going to go ahead and convert from that. See, like there he got hit, so I can capitalize on that. Random combo, he's going to block the full string, which is good too, but for a different reason. So, random combo, if he gets hit in the beginning, he's going to get hit the whole time. See? And if he blocks the beginning, he's going to block the whole thing. See? See, there he blocked that full string. There he didn't. See, he's going to block that entire string. See? So it's super good because, again, you could practice your pressure. He got hit, and then that's how you know, to continue your combo, hit confirming and stuff like that. This is really useful. It's very useful for when you have frame traps and when you have cancel characters because you can practice your cancels. So that's what random combo does. We'll go ahead and leave that off now. So now the next thing is the movement mode. So they have stand, there's duck. Duck is good because you'll be able to see if certain things jail. For example, you can practice jailing your pokes to make sure that they hit. So for example, this poke here, this is 17 frames. The hit advantage for this is 10. So you'll be able to see that that never jails. For this is 13, so that never jails. So Ermac doesn't really have anything that jails into his stand 2. So that's a good way to kind of see what it is that jails into what. So then that'll tell me, okay, well, I'll be able to do, for example, I could do this into stand 1, right? I could do that, but I can't do it into, or I could do it, for example, to stand 4. If I'm frame perfect, let's see, it has to be this. This pretty tight, but see, that jails. And you can practice your jailing that way, setting it to duck. See, that one didn't jail, that one didn't jail, that one did. So that's how you would go ahead and use that. Now, jumping, this is good to practice, for example, air to airs. And that way you can get the maximum, the most you can out of your conversions in the air. See? So that's good for practicing that. You can also practice catching somebody in the air. What conversions you would do. For example, if I catch him here, I can get that. So things like that. And jump forward is similar, but you can practice, for example, if we're at this distance, you can practice anti-airing, right? So, but you get the idea. Exact combo doesn't really matter. So, but that's kind of the idea. You can practice your anti-airs with that and other things. So jump backward is kind of the same thing. You can practice what to do. They jump away. And then we're back to stand and duck. So those are really the important ones that you're going to want to use. Let's go ahead and put them close again. But that's basically like these settings here with opponent type. Now throw escape is just that. It's going to have them escape your throw. Breaker mode is going to have them break or not randomly. So now this is important. As far as your getup, this is how you can practice your safe jumps. So you can put getup mode on, which means that they're going to do something when they wake up. And in this case, I can have him do, for example, his armored move. I can have Noob Saibot do enhanced shadow sweep. See? And what that's going to do is, now when he falls, he's going to do that on wake up. See? So you can practice getting your safe jumps. If I don't drop it. See? And practice my armor break. You can go ahead and practice that. You can also practice safe jumping. See? So that's a safe jump. That's another one. See? So that's super good for that. You can do the same thing with noob, and I can practice my safe jump timing with that. Definitely worth doing with noob, because it is a little bit different. So it's a little bit weird, but it's definitely worth doing it with him. That way you can go ahead and get your safe jumps as good as you can. So that's another thing that you can do. You can do the get up mode on. It also helps you practice like armor break setups like this. Could be a little bit tricky. There we go. See, so it helps you practice things like that. That way you can get them optimally. Make sure you're getting the most out of it. Right? So that's kind of the idea. That's how you can go ahead and use the get up mode. So you can change the attack. In some cases, if you wanted to, for example, snuff out get up buttons, you can go ahead and do recording. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. But then get up delay is going to make it so that they, when you do a knockdown, they go ahead and get up delay on. Make sure that this is on. Yeah, so then when you go and do the knockdown, instead of waking up immediately, they'll delay it. So that could be important because if you change the timing of some of your setups, see that change the timing of that safe jump setup. You could do the same thing for Ermac, for example. If I go ahead and switch over to Ermac, let's try it again. See how that changed the timing of the jump in? So that's something that could happen. So it's definitely worth using the get up mode. This is super important because you can practice your safe jumps and all of your Oki setups that way. It also helps you time, for example, you can set it to random so that it helps you time different things. So that way, if you're going to try to Oki them, you can go ahead and if I do a sweep, I'll know how to time this, and you can practice reacting to the get up delay, right? So if you sweep them, you can try different things out to see what Oki's best. You'll notice that, for example, with Ermac, if I do this, back 2-4 is the standard Oki, but you can see there that the timing changes, right? Because if I do this, I can get a combo from that. If I do a sweep, that changes the timing of it. So you can practice Oki with different situations. So that's very, very useful. And now moving on from the get up mode, the last thing we have is reversal. And this is going to be when they block what they do. So in this case, if I wanted to set him, for example, to try to armor, this is a great way to check to see if moves have gaps. Okay, if I wanted to see, for example, what, and it's worth noting, by the way, when you turn reversal mode on, it'll automatically set it to all block. So this is good because you can check and see, for example, like what has gaps. So Ermac's 1-2-3 string doesn't have a gap. But if you do 1-2 cancel, it does. So definitely something that's good to know because you can go ahead and have real pressure. This, for example, has a gap in the last hit. So here, your safest bet is to cancel and block. See? And the only way to know that is to actually check this and see that it has a gap. This move is stand 4-2. Stand 4-2. That has a gap. With Noob Saibot specifically, you can go ahead and jump in, but you can see where the gaps are there. Same thing with forward 2-2. It has a gap in it. So forward 2 cancel is actually your best bet. So it's a perfect example of that. You can see the same thing if I switch over to Noob Saibot, right, and I go to reversal mode on, and I have him do too late. You can see that 2-1-2 is gapless. But if I do 2-1-2-4, 2-1-2-1, that's also gapless. 2-1-4 has a gap though, right? So 2-1-4 has a gap. If I do 1-2-1, if I do 1-2-1-2, the last hit has a gap. So I have to stop there if I want it to be gapless. And then if I wanted to fill that gap, because that's actually -9, I could do, for example, the enhanced shadow slicer, and that fills the gap. So you can see that that's gapless. So this is definitely good ways to make sure, tighten up your offense and make sure that you actually have real pressure and not fake pressure. And this stuff does matter at the higher level because, for example, whenever I play against a Takeda player, every time they toss out a back 2-1, I can go ahead and just armor right through it. So this is at the higher level where you start to see how certain characters, they fall apart and all their offense falls apart. And I'll show you an example of that right now. Takeda is one of the worst characters in the game in my opinion, and a big reason why is because he only has one mid and it's back 2. So back 2 is 20 frames in startup, which is super slow. Very, very slow. I think Cyrax is the only other character I can think of that has a mid that's that slow. And even Cyrax has a faster one with back 3. But in this case, Takeda only has one, and it's this one, right? Every other button, it's a high. So he doesn't have any other mids. And his one and only mid that stops people from mashing on you, while it has amazing range, this is super, super good range. And to get a full combo from it, that's awesome, but it has a gap in it. And just to show you how big of a deal gaps are, this is what I was telling you about with being able to armor through the gaps. Every time Takeda throws out his mid, there's a gap there. So Takeda can get full comboed for that, depending on which cameo you have. Most of the cast can do an armor into a combo. For his back 2, even if I hit with the second hit, there's still a gap there. So there's a gap between the first hit and the second hit, and between the second hit and the third hit. And you might think, well, Musha, you can just throw a kunai. But the thing is, the kunai is not gapless, so it also has a gap. And even if he goes ahead and just does this and blocks, it's still minus. So when you take his back 2, it's minus 16. And if we look at Ermac's too late, right? The startup is 15. At point blank range, he can punish this. And when it's further away, Takeda can't block. He could try to do the back 2 to punish it. But this is where the mind game comes in, right? Because if you know that you have a gap, then you can block after that, assuming that the move's not unsafe. So if I do this, right, then you can go ahead and go for a punish with Takeda. So now, moving on to reversal mode, right? So the reversal mode here, I've already shown you one application of it, which is finding gaps. Another thing that you can do is the reversal mode can be really good for practicing how to handle certain situations. So when I was doing my guide with Ermac and Smoke, in some cases I would have the opponent doing some kind of an attack, right? Well, here, you can practice baiting out certain things as cancel characters. So if I have, for example, I have Ermac doing his armored move on block, right? Then what I could do is I could do this and practice punishing that on cancel. Let's try it again. And see, I can practice getting them optimal cancel for what I did. See? And then that's a really good way too to sharpen up your cancel pressure. Because normally all of his cancels have gaps, right? Smoke is also a very bad character because all of his strings have gaps. There is not one single string that doesn't have a gap. But here you can practice tightening up your cancels. Because if I do this, I can bait that out, and then I can go for my punish. See, same if I do this. If I go like this, I can do the same thing. Bait that out, and get a punish. See? So that's really, really good. You can also practice your frame trap. So if I do this, that whole thing you saw didn't have any gaps. So I should be able to get a button out before he could do anything. See? So that's a really good way to go ahead and practice your cancel pressure, so that way you're not getting blown up for doing your cancels. Now you can do the same thing with Ermac. I can go ahead and I can put Smoke to do... Well, Smoke actually doesn't have the best armor, so might not be the best idea. But he's going to do his enhanced smoke bomb, right? So I can go ahead and practice this, for example. See? Now I can show you how this is gapless, and how you can punish him trying to armor back. See? The other thing too is you can practice your... You can combine these things. So if I set him, for example, to do auto, then at this point, he's going to go ahead. He's going to eat a combo. And you can see how there, that's a realistic scenario. Now you can combine these practice settings to then, for example, have him do a get up attack, and he's going to do an enhanced smoke bomb to get up, and then maybe for the reversal, he's going to do the same thing. So now that becomes this. And you can see how there you can practice real scenarios. Well, and if I put him to go ahead and random block, then that's even another layer of that. Because now you can really practice what I was telling you before with the cancels. Where you can do this, see, and then you can practice your cancel pressure. The other thing too that you can practice is your Oki setup. So if I do this, then you can practice what you would do in Wake Up. And you can see that you can break armor that way with MX1 too. And combining all these things is how you can get some really, really good situations and labbing done when you're in training mode. Now, one last thing is custom recordings. So now if I go ahead and go to playback recording, here I have a list of different slots that I can go ahead and put recordings into. So there's recordings 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then there's the custom reversal recording. So for recordings 1 through 4, these are just different scenarios that you can go ahead and put. Now usually, I have this set to random hidden, but you usually have it set to right stick by default. Now what this means is if I do recording 1, I'm going to be controlling smoke, and I can practice, for example. If I do this, for recording 1, let's go ahead and set it to right stick. As soon as I hit X, it's going to start recording. Now I can go, and I can record that, see? And then I can go ahead, and I can record that. Just to give you examples, I can record this, and then I can record, for example, this. Now there, just by doing that, I can trigger each scenario. I can practice basically defending against the different options that Smoke has from his back too. So if I go ahead and I can use the right stick, I can make Smoke do each of those. So if I wanted to practice anti-airing it, I could do that. See? And you can practice the timing length. Same thing happens if I go ahead and do the down input for the right stick. So I'm just moving my right stick down, and he's going to do the recording that I did. And then now, if I go ahead and go here, instead of setting it to right stick, I can set it to auto, or I can set it to go, for example, instead of cycling through, it could do random, because auto will just do 1, 2, 3, and 4. Random will trigger random ones, but I can see the input on the top. See how it's going to do 3, it's going to do 4, it's going to do 2, because it highlights the one it's going to do. And for the best practice, I can do random hidden, and that's going to hide which option they're doing. So if you notice in the top, where it says 1, 2, 3, 4, neither of them are highlighted. So this is really good, because you can practice labbing against the pressure that you struggle with. And this is what everyone should be doing, is hitting the lab in this way. Because if they do this, then they can practice the things that they struggle with. So I recorded a little sequence just to show you guys an example of how you can use this to lab. But a common noob crusher is Smoke, right? Because they see him do these cancels, and they're just like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? It's always his turn. I'm getting mixed up. What happens now? Remember on my Smoke guide, I covered that all of his cancels are minus. So this is a good chance to be able to go ahead and practice crushing those cancels. So let's go ahead and do that. So whenever we see him cancel, let's just go ahead and do a stand 1. And like you saw there, he got interrupted, right? But what if I missed that one? I could do it again there. Okay, that particular cancel is +5, but the move that he was going for, that move, his forward 4, was a 20 frame startup. So there, when he does that, he's +5, but my stand 1 is 7 frames. His move is 20 frames, that makes it down to 15, but I'm still twice as fast as him in my attack. So now that we know exactly how much that is, I can actually get a back 2 out. And there you can see I was able to get a whole back 2 out in the middle of his cancel pressure, even when he was plus. So, but what if we miss all of that, right? You can punish that too. See, and that's a great way to go ahead and practice crushing the things that give you a hard time. So what about practicing up blocks? Well, we can up block the first hit. We know that. What else can we up block? We can up block that. And this is me just going ahead and countering this entire sequence that he's doing, right? So you can see there's many options to counter. Another thing too is in his 2-1-2 string, there's actually a gap. I can actually stand 1 him in the middle of that. We trade there. There's also an armor gap there. Okay, so now you can see there, for example, Ermax armor fails to crush that move. But see, these are really good chances for us to practice stuff like this. We could also try to say, okay, well, what about Cameo? The Cameo stops him. See, so there I'm arming through the gap with Cameo. Cameo stops him, and now he's withstood, and he can take more punishment. See? And this is how you can go ahead and use the recording to practice different things. Now, moving along, the same way that we went ahead and we recorded different things, you can use that to practice different scenarios. So that was one cancel sequence. If you see another smoke player or mic player or whatever character do something that's really hard to you, you can go ahead and go into practice, recreate it, and see what you can do. See different ways of countering it. Now, the last thing is custom reversal, right? So here, this is it's gonna decide what they do as a reversal. So you can put your own reversal here. So I'm gonna put down one because that's a pretty useful one, right? So if I go ahead and put the reversal to be custom, it's gonna say there's recording with navigation, and then there's recording. So the difference between these two is when you do with navigation, he's gonna do the input with whatever movement you did. It's actually a bad example. So if I go here and do this, then he should do that. See? Now if I do this, he's just going to do the button input. So he's going to cut out the walking. So in general, if you want to go ahead and see how they react to, if you want to basically check to see if you can punish it down one or things like that, you want to have the fastest reversal, you would put it to recording. If you want them to do something specific, including moving around or waiting, you could do recording with navigation. So if you're doing a cancel character, for example, and you want to practice punishing down ones, then this would be the perfect way to do it. See? You can get a lot of good work out of that. See? And just like that, he lost over half his health for a down one. And this is a realistic sequence that you can practice, because a lot of times people will go ahead and they'll poke. And this is a good way to also deal with people that mash, people that poke a lot. So this is super, super good. You can also set them to do like multiple down ones, right? So if I do that, let me go ahead and record a little bit tighter. Right, you can have them do that. If I go here, see, he's gonna keep on poking. And this way you can also practice punishing pokes. See? And if you poke and you get poked back, how to take your turn back. Or, if I do this, see, and punishing that. So this is a good way to help deal, practice lab against mashers, or people that poke after every single string, different stuff like that. Because a lot of the times you'll see people do things like this, right? So especially now with Ghostface. So with Ghostface, something that you see people do a lot of the time is they'll do this. They won't even bother hit confirming, and then they'll just keep on doing this, mash, this, right? Things like that. They just kind of act like it's always their turn. So how do you deal with that? And well, what you could do is you could set them to record that. So for example, if we have somebody doing, if I go here to record, right, and I have that, then I can practice against that. Or if I go like this, how do I deal with that? Well, with the first one, what I can do is try to trade with them. So I can go, or I can go, for example, I can have a cameo reversal, see? So right there, Janet can go ahead and punish him for trying to poke me. Right, and then now, I'm the one that has hit advantage, and Oki, and all that, see? So I have priority now. Because when she does this, I'm plus 34. They gotta hold this mix too. So see, that's a perfect example where there you can see, using a cameo, for example, I'm labbing ways to deal with the mashing. Right, what about when they do this? Right? They love doing that. So what can you do? You can full combo punish that into a setup. See, and just like that, now you're dealing with the people mashing. So you can see how to go ahead and lab against that. And this is why being able to have your own custom recordings is huge for practice. This is probably one of the most used parts of practice mode that I use. And you could do the same thing with a custom reversal. So for example, a lot of the times they might wake up and do this, right? So if I have, for example, getup mode, and when they wake up, they're going to do that, I can go ahead and set the wake up to be the recording. And that's how you can go ahead and deal with that. So here, I'm going to have it set to not block, and the wake up that they're going to do is going to be the poke. See, so how can you punish that? Well, that's where you can practice your meaty. See? There he got countered for trying to wake up buttons. So he ate a full combo because of that, because he tried to wake up buttons. Another thing I can do, forward 1-3. Right? So I could do that too. But here you can see that I'm labbing that. And then you can also find out specific weaknesses the characters have. For example, Ghostface. If I go ahead and put Ghostface here, his down one is really, really bad. But what makes it bad is that if somebody's down oneing, right, if they're doing that, or if they're trying to down one reversal, Ghostface actually can't deal with that too well. Okay, so watch this. See how he gets poked? He can't poke back, it doesn't reach. Ooh, there it reached. See that? If I try to punish him, it's not a punish. The way that I hit the first time was I hit him as he was trying to hit me. See how it says counter? That means that I hit him as he was trying to hit me, so it's not even a punish. But if you notice, when I down one him, if I set him to do block and reversal mode on and do recording, he can punish that. But in Ghostface's case, if I switch it, right, and I do the same thing, I set him to do that. I'm going to go ahead and put him on the other side, right? Let me set him to do recording. It's really hard for him to punish a poke. He can't just punish it. You see that? So I can poke him, but it's really hard for him to poke me. See, so like other characters, they have better pokes than Ghostface. This is something that you'd only find out if you went into training mode and then you used the reversal feature to see that. See? So this pretty much covers it, guys. In a nutshell, this is a complete guide to using practice. So you can use all of these things that I showed you to go ahead and lab and really get familiar with different things the characters do, different things that you struggle with, be able to find the weaknesses and the stuff that frustrates you, and make your own game plan a lot tighter. So I hope that this helped, being able to really understand how to do it, how to use all the features in it. I know this was a long guide, but I feel like it was worth it. And if there's anything else that you guys want me to cover, just let me know. And if you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe. And this is your boy Musha. As always, guys, be easy.